True Crime. I'm Manny Rodriguez. In today's episode, we are diving into the Savannah Graziano case. Young 15-year-old girl taken way too soon. I'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. Savannah Graziano, a 15-year-old girl whose desperate plea for help turned into a nightmare. Join us as we unravel the shocking events surrounding her abduction and untimely demise, shedding light on the devastating consequences of a family torn apart by violence. What started out with her dad murdering her mom, then kidnapping her, ended in a hail of gunfire by the police. And that's what makes this so heart wrenching. Because at the end of the day, it's the police that protect us, right? Are supposed to be the ones that we trust. Well, Savannah running to the police would end up being shot by those police officers. Now, when this was first reported, it was a shocking turn of events to hear that there was an Amber Alert that went out about the teenage girl who was kidnapped by her dad, Anthony John Graziano. All right? Savannah Graziano, 15 years old, killed on September 27th, 2022. I remember this case clearly. And so she was gunned down by cops as she ran toward them for help after being kidnapped by her father, all while a deputy helplessly begged for other officers to stop firing. That's what this new video shows. Before this video comes out, right, we heard a different side from the police officers in 2022. Okay, even the sheriff at that time, I believe he's still the sheriff, he kind of even shared something different. All right, after this happens, he says, as a result, this is what the sheriff Dickus had said. Now, let me get his full name here just so I can be a little. Sheriff Shannon Dickus of the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department. And he had a press briefing that Tuesday after this whole chain of events that happened that morning. And so that morning on Tuesday, police reveal a phone call from someone who said that they believed that they saw Graziano's car. This was after murdering his estranged wife. All right, they were separated. This was a domestic violence thing, and in the process, he kidnaps the daughter. I remember reporting on this particular case. At that time, we only heard one version. But the journalists there in California, or even journalists in general, not just in California, but due to the California rights, where the journalists get rights to, we want to know more of what went on in there. And so they were asking for the video. Now, the police allegedly had no body worn camera active. I don't know. I thought that was normal, but maybe in California they don't. I'd have to look deeper because I know that they have video footage of some sort. But the helicopter in this, he was following, and so the video there would come out. But the sheriff at that time had shared that as a result of that, this was after the suspect, the dad in the driver's seat, he kept shooting at cops along this chase. So obviously, you can see all heights are worn, right? Like everything is up in the air. They don't know which way is right. All they know is that this guy is firing at them. He's kidnapped the daughter. It was an Amber Alert for the 15-year-old, right? Now, at the time, Sheriff Dickus had said, as a result of that, a firefight ensued. During that firefight, the suspect vehicle comes to arrest, at which time a suspect, he refers to the 15-year-old Savannah Graziano as a suspect exiting the passenger. Let's make this very clear. She was not ever a suspect. But that's what he said at that time, all right? He says, at which time a suspect exits the passenger side of the vehicle wearing tactical gear. That's what was in the news to us. That's what was being reported to us. This is what he said in that press conference. And he says that subject starts to run towards sheriff's deputies, and during the gunfire goes down because the police had shot her. And deputies, they then start to clear the car to make it safe and render medical aid. That's what he said at that time. And he said authorities believe that the subject was Savannah. Yes, that subject who was crawling from the passenger side to help to the cops was gunned down. I'm just sharing what we would find out. All right. We need cops, obviously, to try to keep us safe. And during this heat of the moment, they failed Savannah. I will say, I truly believe they failed Savannah. Let me know in the comments what you think. At the same time, I understand they are scared. They're being shot at. But this young girl was not shooting at them. She would be rushed to a local hospital where she died at 11:52 a.m. that morning. All right, that day of this incident, September 27th, 2022. And so she would be gunned down by cops as she ran toward them. Again, after being kidnapped by her father. And so even a deputy was sharing, stop firing, because they knew that she was not the suspect. And so in the footage, Savannah was seen following cops' instructions, crawling on her hands and knees along the 15 freeway. Now, I am not going to play this whole thing in, if I can find it, I'm not going to play this whole thing in its entirety, or at least not have the sound if I can find it. Too many screens going on, I guess. I didn't go to the right one at the right time. Okay, so I'll go back to it. But in the footage, Savannah was seen following their instructions and crawling on her hands and knees. This was on the I-15 freeway in Hesperia, California. And deputies, they take cover by a police SUV. You can see them taking their cover. She is seen in the video crawling. This is her on the screen. All right. And during this, it's at this time where she's crawling to them, and somehow or another they messed up and they kill her. They shoot her. I don't know if everyone thought she was a suspect at that time. That part is still up in the air. We don't really know all of that particulars. What we do know is that a 15-year-old was gunned down. And through that, we find that this may have been able to be avoided, is backing this truck up all the way in towards where this truck would end up. All right. In the footage, she would later be, here in a minute, seen following the cops' instructions and crawling. All right. And the deputy is pleading, claimed Savannah was shot because she was wearing tactical equipment and fired back. All right. We do not know. This is from San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department. All right. And this is when she exits the pickup truck, and you can hear him call her over, telling other deputies that's the person who exited the truck was the passenger, and for them to stop firing. And I'm not going to get too deep into that because, again, this is very sensitive. So I'm trying to keep this, as safe. Because at the end of the day, I'm not trying to say anyone needs to be held accountable, but a young girl's life was lost, and it started because of this man right here, Anthony John Graziano, who first takes her mother and then goes on the run. And that's when you see him backing this truck up. And that's when she gets out and she's following the instructions. But it wasn't enough because they would go on to take her life in this. And the tragic video of the shooting, it was released yesterday after journalists requested it under the California Public Records Act. And through this, when Tracy was killed, this is Tracy the mom. Investigators, they issued an Amber Alert for the 15-year-old teenager and quickly responded when a civilian spotted the dad and daughter, as I shared with you earlier. And so deputies, they tried to pull Anthony over. They tried to pull that truck over, but he was not having it. And he went on the run, which would then cause his daughter to be killed by the deputies and the police officers. And so that was just before 11 a.m. when they were fired at by the father, who had a semi-automatic weapon officials with the sheriff's department would share with us at that time. Now, authorities, they followed the truck for almost 70 miles. And in this process, the father continued to fire his weapon at them. All right. That's before Graziano tried and failed to take his vehicle up that embankment. It was claimed by police at that time that Savannah may also have been firing from the vehicle, but she was not. She was in fear of her life. I don't know how all of this miscommunication would occur, and this is why we're going down this rabbit hole, aren't we? Because let's stop and think about this. I understand in the heat of the moment. And that's why I'm like, I don't know that anyone, it looks like a terrible mistake. I don't know. Were they trained well enough? We don't know. But I do truly believe a 15-year-old lost her life. I feel like that could have been avoided. I feel like that part could have been avoided. But they thought, from what I can tell, they thought that she was a suspect. But at the same time, an Amber Alert was issued. And I get what they did to him. But he comes to a stop on the side of the road about 80 miles from the Los Angeles area, the downtown area of Los Angeles. And so this newly released footage, this shows a camera from the sheriff's department helicopter. That's what you saw on your screen. All right. That video footage. And so through that, you saw Graziano attempting to go in reverse on the road. And at this same time, as he's going in reverse on that video, he's shooting at them. He continues to fire. He obviously did not care that he was risking his daughter's life. So I truly believe that these charges should be on him. The whole accountability falls on her father. But the police were not trained enough to protect the victim in this incident. That part I truly believe as well. Again, it starts with the dad. It ends with the police not being trained enough to protect that 15-year-old who, again, there's an Amber Alert, which means she's a victim. All right. But then we see that she's getting out of the car and the officer says over the radio, the girl's out, the female juvie is out. She's out on the passenger side. All of those walkie-talkies or whatever are getting that same message. And she keeps a low crouch, but she starts moving quickly towards the officers when suddenly those gunshots ring out and the footage blurs her body out for obvious reasons, right? But the sheriff's department were not wearing any body cameras, but audio was released from an officer who was near this incident when the girl was getting out. And he repeatedly yells, "Passenger, get out, come here, come to me, come, 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 walk, walk, walk," before someone fires, before multiple fires. And then back over the radio after the 15-year-old was shot, another officer can be then heard saying, "Oh no," because they knew that wasn't good. They knew. They knew that was not good that this happened. All right. And so it all begins when he does the unthinkable to his ex-wife and then goes on the run. And it ends by police taking this young 15-year-old's life. And again, now at that time, San Bernardino County Sheriff Shannon Dickus said at the time of the shooting that it looked like Graziano was running toward deputies wearing tactical gear. Again, but we didn't really see that when we're looking at this footage. But it does show that it shows that Savannah is speeding up because she's scared. She's still moving and crouching. Her outfit remains unclear. You really cannot see what she's wearing. But one deputy was injured by shrapnel. During this gunfire, all that stuff that comes out. And so officials also suggested that it's possible that Savannah had fired at officers. We don't see that. We don't see that anywhere, but that remains under investigation. But we do see weapons. If you watch that video, you can see the gunfire coming out. And all of the firearms that this dude has was legal. It was legal. He owned this stuff legal. He was not on probation. He was not on parole. Now, Savannah's younger brother, he says that the siblings grew up around guns, like he always had guns around. Savannah, she was pronounced dead at the scene, but that's what we would find out later. At the time, it was said that she was pronounced dead, but it looks like she might have been pronounced at the scene, that they already knew that she was gone. Eventually, Anthony was eventually shot dead, but we don't know exactly when that occurs. We don't really see that in the footage when that part comes out. But Savannah's uncle, he says there needs to be better training so that unarmed people aren't killed. Because it is said that she was unarmed. She had nothing. She was not shooting at them. She was trying to keep herself alive. And that's why, this video coming out, it might be a way to help. But it starts with this abusive guy. Because the Uncle Wyatt, he ultimately says this is on Savannah's abusive and manipulative father, Anthony. And he says that she was a really sweet girl at her core, and she didn't deserve this. And so that's where it's like we find all of this out. But Graziano, he shoots Tracy Martinez multiple times and also turned and fired on a nearby car with daughter Savannah in the back seat. And witnesses in 2 videos, one from a bystander and another from a doorbell, shows that she stayed still as her mother screamed. She was in shock. Now, Sergeant Kristen Surgeon says that she's just sitting in the back seat watching this unfold. She couldn't believe this stuff. And authorities, they had previously said that the teen was somewhere else during her mother's killing, was later abducted by her father. And so Martinez was able to identify Graziano before she dies, but never mentioned her daughter being there. Neither video showed the shooting. Now, family members would tell investigators that the couple, they had been going through a divorce. Martinez was rushed to the hospital where she was pronounced dead. All right? And so throughout this is like we hear one different story and later find out another. And the only thing that I'm really pleading here is for better training. A 15-year-old lost her life. She lost her mother. She lost her father because her father was going to be gone, and he obviously was ready to die. Why would he take his daughter down the road? These are things that we never have answers to. We never have answers to these things because here's the truth. It happens way often, way too much, way too much. But again, officers, they previously said that the deputies involved, they had a different view of the truck as they were in a higher elevation to where it stopped. And so the deputies fired because they saw a person get out of the truck and head toward the nearest deputy, unaware he had called to her. So they didn't have all their ducks in a row when one person's talking to her while the others are like, there's someone come and shoot. A young 15-year-old lost their life. And it all started with her dad. Now, this incident, it does remain under investigation by the state's Department of Justice under a law that requires that police involved in any type of killings be named publicly. So this is still an ongoing investigation. So there's a good chance we've not heard the last of this. But the sheriff's department, they faced increased scrutiny in recent months as it faces several wrongful arrest and death lawsuits last year. And so there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on in San Francisco, San Bernardino, Los Angeles. There's a lot going on in New York, and there's a lot going on all over this freaking country. But this young 15-year-old, Savannah, did not deserve this. Her life was taken way too soon. And that's why I wanted to be a voice for her. Because she did not deserve this, and she no longer has a voice or a life to live. Granted, she was going to be wounded from the heart for the rest of her life, but she won't even get a chance for healing. Now, this 15-year-old, if you're a person of prayer, please pray that this department gets better training to protect the victim in this type of situation. Please pray that there's some healing, there's some justice that comes out of this, and the only possible justice is the Savannah law, where police learn to protect the victim in this incident. Because some miscommunication went on and a 15-year-old lost their life. I'm Manny Rodriguez. This has been another episode of Deep True Crime. Until next time, my friends, be alert, be safe, be aware. This is a crazy world we live in, and you just never know when something could go wrong in a matter of minutes. Be alert. Peace.